Happy Thursday, everybody. It's Jim and it's Amadeus. And Amadeus, we had a really good run and still have a good run with the Euros going on. But now, if you're a soccer fan, this has got to be absolute and total spectacular next week or so because you have soccer pretty much from noon all the way until late evenings.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great time to be a soccer fan. Obviously, today we got the Copa America starting later today, and it's going to be great. It's a little rough for the Europeans because these Copa America matches are going to be in the middle of the night. But absolutely, over here it's great. You got basically you got Euro Cup 9 a.m. Noon and 3 p.m. and then you'll have the Copa America in the evening. So it's definitely getting exciting today.
Yeah, and it'll be fun, and we'll get to see some of the best players in the world playing, and some guys as we always say, some stars of the future kind of make their debut in these events. And today, your Canada team opens up against the favorite in Mercedes-Benz Stadium there in Atlanta, Georgia, against Argentina. That's an 8 o'clock start on Fox in the U.S.
Yeah, they're kicking off the tournament. It's the only match today for Copa America, so it's going to be an interesting one. Obviously, Canada went 0-3 at the World Cup back in 2022, so definitely wasn't a good run. Finished at the bottom of the group there. They have that experience to draw from, but it's not going to be easy taking on the defending Copa America champions in this first match and also the world champions from 2 years ago. So yeah, very difficult match for them to start off the tournament. Expectations aren't high in this one, but I will say, yeah, I feel good about them getting out of the group for sure. And that's more of a knock on the other two teams in the group, Peru and Chile, who will both be playing tomorrow. But yeah, I think there's a good chance, Canada can maybe do something against one of those two teams.
I'm interested in that. I know that soccer is big in Canada, and they've got tremendous athletes there. What what do you think has been, and obviously they have a solid women's team as well. Is it something where the guys just choose to play other sports and maybe not focus on soccer?
Yeah, once again, like a lot of it's similar to the United States where a lot of our
Hmm.
players have to go overseas right now to get noticed. Obviously, our
Hmm.
star player is Alfonso Davies, who plays defense for, or I guess left back for Bayern Munich. So
Hmm.
he was just announced captain of the team. So good on him. But we have a few guys like Jonathan David is our striker. He plays for Lille
Hmm.
over in France. So definitely there is some talent. But yeah, not too much. Like a lot of our guys come from the smaller clubs too. I know we have I
Hmm.
believe Tajon Buchanan is from Club Bruges. So definitely some of these smaller Europeans, but even the players that are playing on these smaller clubs, they still have to find themselves, going across seas to Europe to play and get
Sure.
themselves noticed, and then that's where they're developing. But like I said, Canada they just started the Canada Premier League, which isn't really a Premier League, but it's it's they just started it, so it's growing for sure, right? That at the regional or yeah, at the regional level,
Hmm.
basically, because the Canadian Championship, they used to have the Canadian Championship,
Hmm.
similar how the American teams have the U.S. Open Cup, and the Canadian teams weren't eligible for that, right? So we have our own thing. It's
Hmm.
domestic, and that's the thing. We had the Canadian Championship, and it was really for years. It was just Vancouver, Montreal, and Toronto all playing each other for the
Hmm.
thing. So now it's a little more interesting because there are those teams like Cavalry FC. There's some other ones like Halifax. I'm not sure of all the teams in the league. I don't really follow
Hmm.
it too much, but it's definitely growing, and they've even opened up a spot. I believe Cavalry FC was in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, so they're definitely they're trying to get the teams playing at the continental level, which helps develop
Hmm.
for them as well. So definitely, it's growing, right? It's similar to the U.S. right now.
Hmm.
You got to go overseas, but the game is slowly growing here, and maybe 10 years from now, yeah, you'll have a team made up of players that are actually playing in the country.
Hmm. It's interesting. I know that back, in my career, um, Vancouver has always been a wonderful place for. Just love it. They fill up the stadium for anything.
Yeah, they have a huge stadium out there, BC Place. It sits, I believe it
Hmm.
seats about 55,000 or something like that, because also the
Yeah,
BC Lions use it in the CFL. So
yeah, they
yeah,
play in the same place. Right?
yeah, it's a massive stadium, and I believe like that was the one stadium for the World Cup when it's over here in North America in 2026.
Hmm.
That's one stadium where they were like, all right, that one's good to go. Toronto has to go undergo a ton of renovations in their stadium to
Hmm.
accommodate the World Cup and all that. But BC Place, it seats enough. It's pretty much a ready to go stadium, like what you would see at some of these venues like Mercedes Benz, where the game tonight is being played. So
Hmm.
definitely a solid atmosphere for sure over at BC Place.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've always had that. There's that rivalry between Vancouver and Seattle. It goes all the way back to the '70s in the NASL, where they used to play, against each other. And you know, it's a great situation from that standpoint. So we'll see. But you're right. I mean, the U.S. has the same growing pains. I mean, they've got incredibly talented athletes who have chosen to play other sports, and that's such is not the case in South America and in Europe.
Yeah, and even for the Canadians, it's a little tougher, right? Because if
Hmm.
the Americans, they just decide, do I want to play soccer, go overseas, right, or just go somewhere and
Hmm.
play a different sport? For Canada, really, there's nowhere you can go up here that you're going to get
Hmm.
noticed. It's you're deciding, do I want to play another sport or do I want to play soccer? If I play soccer, I have to go overseas, and if I want to play another sport, well,
Hmm.
I still have to leave the country and go to the United States and pick, a
Right,
school that's going to be good in that sport that I want to
right.
pursue professionally. So, yeah, a little bit of an extra obstacle for sure up here.
Yeah. So, do we like Argentina to cruise, or is there somebody who could knock them off?
Yeah, so Argentina is definitely, the best team in the tournament right now. Obviously, they have one of
Hmm.
the best teams in the world, and the thing with them is they're a lot more than just Lionel Messi. Like obviously,
Right.
since Messi's playing in the MLS now, and the story it's always it's that's all I've heard. Not even today. Literally, every Euro Cup match has somehow been linked back to Argentina and Canada on TSN. So I know how Sean
Hmm.
feels with the Fox coverage now of these Euro
Yeah.
Cup competitions. It's like I don't understand what today's halftime in the earlier match Serbia Slovenia had to do with Argentina and Canada, but yeah, I've been hearing, and that's the thing, right? They always bring it up: Lionel Messi and Argentina, Messi and Argentina. Well, it's a lot more than just Messi. They have a ton of
Right.
talented players. Obviously, Mac Allister was a big move. I thought he really helped out Liverpool a lot this year when he first
Hmm.
got there. He obviously made a name for himself in the last World Cup. So Lautaro Martinez is another one. He's the guy who's going to be beside Messi as the second striker, and he's had phenomenal seasons at Inter Milan year after year. So definitely, this team is a lot more. They got players from Flamengo as well. Some of these other lesser known players who are just as
Hmm.
talented, but you don't hear too much about them because they play in the South American leagues. So Argentina, by far, they're the favorite at plus 175, and I think they are the team to beat. But if any team is going to give them a run for their money, I actually think it's going to be Uruguay at plus 550. I think Uruguay has a really good team. They have a solid midfield, obviously, Fede Valverde, who plays over at Real Madrid. They Edison Cavani won't be playing for the team because he just retired, but they got Darwin Nunez, who plays over at Liverpool. So they definitely have talent on this team and a solid defense. They played well at the last World Cup. Definitely weren't their best. That's for sure. It was a bit of a disappointing one for them. But they are the team, I believe, that Argentina beat in the final at the last Copa America. And Uruguay is also the team that won the 2016? No, sorry, 2016 Euro, or sorry, the 2016 Copa America. So they're the last team to win it that wasn't Argentina. So, and I believe that they even beat Argentina in the final that year, because that was the story. Messi came so close to winning the Copa America and had never won that or a World Cup up to that point. And then, flash forward to 2020, gets his first Copa America and then his first World Cup 2 years later. So definitely, this Uruguay team has been a thorn in their side before, but there are definitely some talented teams. Brazil has just as talented a squad as Argentina does. Just we saw in the last World Cup, they couldn't put it together on the pitch. There was a lot of problems. I don't know if it's a chemistry issue, but we'll have to see how they come out in their group. They definitely have a dangerous team if they can get their act together. And even Colombia, Colombia is not going to threaten you with their goal scoring, which is why, a little bit of a liability on that end, but they have a phenomenal defense and they don't give up many goals. They've been doing very well in the first 6 matches of the World Cup qualifiers that were played over the last year. So definitely Colombia could be a bit of a dark horse in this tournament as well, just because of that defense. And when you get later in these stages, it's never good to leave it up to penalties because you never want to chance fate. But if you're playing against a stronger team in every match and that's the only way you're going to get through, then Colombia has that defense to hold teams to 0-0.
I got to ask, a name that you haven't mentioned is Brazil. And normally one would think, they're always a force, but is it a situation where they're just having downtime, down with the Samba boys there?
Yeah, well, like I said, I just kind of touched on them a bit with Brazil being, they're just as talented. When you look at their squad, the players like Vinicius, Rodrigo, all these Real Madrid players they have up front, and even Gabriel Jesus and Martinelli, they have a phenomenal attacking talent. They have a great midfield and a solid defense too. It's just we saw at the last World Cup they didn't quite put it together. And I don't know if it's a chemistry issue. Even in the World Cup qualifiers, they played 6 World Cup qualifiers before this tournament over the last year. Getting obviously, these are competitions they play in between everything. So they didn't look great in that. They've been behind the ball in that competition. They're sitting usually, they'd be up at the top with Argentina, but right now it's Argentina, Uruguay, and I think even Colombia is in third. So. Yeah, Brazil's definitely they haven't been playing well. And again, I don't know if it's just one of those situations where there's kind of like how you saw with England, England just coming off the draw right in this last match in the Euro Cup, and they didn't look impressive in their 1-0 win against Serbia. Maybe it's one of those things where too much talent on Brazil and the manager doesn't quite know what the best starting 11 is, how to get the most out of the squad, because the talent is definitely there and Brazil can be a threat. But they got to show it on the pitch before I take them seriously. Like I was high on them in the last World Cup, and they really let me down with their performance. So until I see that, now they did recently get called out by Brazil legend Ronaldinho. Said he wasn't going to go to any of the matches or watch any of them, and then. When asked about it like a week later, he said, no, I didn't mean any of that. Of course, I'll be cheering for Brazil and going to the matches. I just wanted to spark a reaction from them because he sees the same thing, we see where they weren't quite right at the last World Cup. Something's wrong with this team. And maybe he thought his comments would light a fire under the squad. So definitely, like I said, if they get their act together, they can be a threat for sure. They have as much talent as Argentina and can absolutely challenge them. But right now it's the age of Messi, and Argentina and Brazil really hasn't been able to match them even in recent meetings with them over the last few years. So until they show it on the pitch, Brazil, I'm really not looking at them. Also because they're the second favorite, and I'm not getting a ton of value for a team I think if they have to play Argentina is probably going to lose and will have their road ended eventually because even, like a Colombia, I think Colombia beat them actually in the World Cup qualifiers that they recently played over the last year. So these are teams. I think Colombia's in their group. So these are the things, right? Brazil really needs to get their act together.
Well, we'll find out if they do, right? I mean, it's put up or shut up time in this particular situation.
Yeah, and like I said, it's similar to Euro Cup with the Copa America. You only get the three matches to get out of the
Mm-hmm.
group, and unlike the Euro Cup, Copa America has a much smaller field, so they don't
Right.
do a round of 16. They go straight to the quarterfinals after the group stage, which means there's no third place finish and let's see what the four best out of the six third place. No, there's none of that. You finish top two in the group or you're going home.
Well, everybody's going to have to suck it up and go for it, I guess, at this point. Um, what are some of the? We've got some games coming up here over the next couple of days in the Euros. What are some of the ones you're looking at and looking forward to?
Well, definitely, this afternoon's match between Spain and Italy. So,
Mm-hmm.
obviously Italy is my team. I picked them to win the
Right.
last Euro Cup, and that cashed. And now,
Mm-hmm.
even though I'm Italian, I'm Italy this year. I picked Spain to win the Euro Cup at plus 800, and so this is going to be a very exciting match for me to watch at least as a fan. So it's going to be a fun one for sure. But definitely, tomorrow the Netherlands France match is going to be interesting just to see how France comes out without Mbappe. I think they'll be fine because Antoine Griezmann is a phenomenal player. He'll take over the role in that offense, like we saw in the World Cup. He was really the focal point, and he was the driving force in their attack. So I expect Griezmann to step up, have a big role against the Netherlands tomorrow. That'll be a good one to watch. And then on Saturday, Turkey and Portugal. Obviously, Turkey won their first match against Georgia, and Portugal found a way to
Mm-hmm.
salvage their first match against Czechia when things were looking bleak very late there. So that could very well decide the group, that one, Turkey and Portugal. And that this England Denmark one today was a big one because they drew, and so goal differential. Now, if England and Denmark both go on to win their last game, there's the situation with the goal differential because both will be tied at the top with 7. And if this Turkey Portugal match is the same way, because if they get a draw there, goal differential might come into place because both those teams could potentially finish with 7 points. So it'll be interesting to see.
Mm-hmm. Quite a bit of interesting stuff going on tonight. You and I had a discussion about this actually after the show yesterday, and that's tonight we have a very important game 6 in the NHL in the Stanley Cup Finals between the the Florida Panthers and the Jets and or Oilers. I'm sorry. Um, this is going to be this could be fun. They could take them to 7.
Yeah, that's going to be a very exciting game for sure. I'm hoping that the Oilers pull through. I haven't really been betting this Stanley Cup final
Mm-hmm.
much, but yeah, everybody thought, like the Mavericks, the Oilers were dead in the water at 3-0, and now it's 3-2. All of a sudden, they've scored 13 goals in the last 2 games.
Yeah.
Their offense is clicking, which is that's what they really needed to solve. But Bobrovsky all of a sudden hasn't looked good. He gave up 4 goals on 23 shots in his last one. So and then he had the awful 5-goal performance the night before. So.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, if Bobrovsky, he was what was keeping them in this game or in this series, sorry, if he's not on his game anymore and the Oilers have figured them out, then the Oilers have a lot of speed. They're definitely,
Mm-hmm.
the Panthers have the physicality, but the Oilers have the speed. So it's going to be a fun one for sure.
And the funny thing with Connor McDavid in that whole situation, if you're Miami, or not Miami, I should say, Florida. If you're Florida, you're looking over your shoulder and going, this deja vu all over again. This is we were supposed to beat Vegas last year and we didn't do it, and now, we thought we had the Oilers pinned down, but they're back.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Florida has to be in a situation where they're back on their heels now.
Yeah.
They're the team that's spiraling. Obviously, they've lost two in a row now, and the momentum, even though they're still up 3-2 in the series, the momentum is with the Oilers, and they're going to have the home advantage, the home crowd on their side. The building's going to be rocking. So that's the thing, right? That's already a tough environment to go into. And if they lose that game, yeah, you're going back home for game 7, but you really have nothing on your side going back for that game.
Hmm. Well, and the funny thing is, I mean, I saw uh, reports today, you know, in Edmonton. The place, obviously, they sold out the building. They're going to have almost as many people outside the building watching the game, on big screens throughout the town. Um, and basically the entire city of Edmonton is has banded together here, and they are really behind this team.
Yeah, I believe it. The really the whole country of Canada is getting
Hmm.
behind the Oilers. I mean, it depends on the fan you ask. Obviously, there's some Calgary
Right.
fans that will tell you they'll never cheer for the Oilers, but
Right.
definitely, it obviously Canada feels like it's time. I've even seen commercials where it's time to bring the cup home. So
Hmm.
we'll see if there's any team. See, that's the thing about the NHL, right? In the
Hmm.
NBA, it's never been done, but in the NHL, it has been done. I'm not sure if it's
Right.
been done in the Stanley Cup final, but it's been done about 3 or 4 times where a team has come back from a 3-0 deficit and gone on to win the series. And look, uh, Connor McDavid, he just tied Gretzky as well. Not really tied. You can't break this record, but he and
Hmm.
Gretzky are now the only two players in NHL history to have multiple 4-point games in the Stanley Cup final. Also, Connor McDavid has 42 points in the playoffs, which is right behind Mario Lemieux, who had 43, and Gretzky, who holds the record with 44
Hmm.
points in the playoffs. So, yeah, and the other thing, the last Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup, I believe, was the Gretzky-led Oilers about 30 something years ago.
Hmm.
So, if there's any time for a Canadian team to win and for a team to come back from down 3-0 in the Stanley Cup final, this Oilers team is the team that can do it.
Well, I think everybody's going to be excited to see that game tonight and see just how good um, Florida is. They only have to win one, like you said. Krosky, I mean, he's just, I don't know, his whole situation might very well be, you know, in his head. You know how goalkeepers are used to play that position. It can get in your head where you just can't seem to stop anything.
Yeah, and the thing is, like Bobrovsky, like he's had a few good seasons. Obviously, he's been up for the Vezina a few times, but he's really not a great goalie. He
Hmm.
obviously last year he had the situation where he let Boston get in his head early in that series, and then they had to pull him and let Alex Leone take it away for the rest of the playoffs. And Alex Leone ended up being the one who really led them to the Stanley Cup final there. So it wasn't Bobrovsky last year. And again, it similar thing could be happening here where now he's rattled and maybe this is the fall apart. And when they pulled him in that other game, Stolars came in and still gave up 3 goals. So if you don't have confidence in your backup either, that's the thing, right? It's not like you have Alex Leone to go and bail you out again. So we'll see. We'll see what happens here.
There you go. It's um, it's gonna be wild tonight. Uh, Tomorrow we have a bunch of stuff going on, which would be fantastic. Um, you know, there's there's talk about which teams and which places. We're now talking about the college foot moving to college football. Which stadiums would be the hardest stadiums if because they're getting this year, for those who can't, who didn't remember, there's going to be 12 teams in the playoff, and the first rounds of the playoffs will be played at the higher seeds home stadium. And there's been, kind of a poll taken of college football writers as to what stadium would be the toughest stadium to play in. And, you would think maybe Michigan or Ohio State would have gotten the toughest place to play, or for that matter, LSU maybe, or we hear a lot about Clemson, but to be honest, I've been there, and of all of the stadiums, LSU was just mainly because of the fans. LSU is pretty tough, but the stadium that came out ratings wise from the writers might be a surprise to a lot of people. That's Beaver Stadium at the University of at Penn State. They have the white out there quite a bit. It's really a very close. It's hard to say you got a 106,000 seat stadium that actually is intimate, but when Penn State, when the crowd gets going, the stadium actually, you can feel it vibrate, and it's just like bouncing in the stadiums like that. So they're saying, this would be tough, the toughest place to play. Frankly, I wouldn't argue with that point.
Yeah, I believe it. They definitely go wild there with their whiteouts. So that's the thing. Just James Franklin's got to win, one of those games against Ohio State, and then
Right.
maybe it will be a little more intimidating for sure. But absolutely, the atmosphere.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the good news is they've named it as the toughest stadium to play. The bad news is Penn State's got to win to get there.
That's the thing, right? It's not like it's Ohio State playing in the stadium. So we'll see, right? Maybe this is the year. But we keep saying James Franklin's he's got to win one of these games. He had him on the ropes last year, and he just let it get away from him.
He got him get away. Now, number 2 on the list, again, it's not one of the ones that many people would think of right off the top, but it's true. And I've been to this stadium a couple of times. Memorial Stadium in Norman, Oklahoma, and it's not there's not 106,000 people. It's much closer to 60,000 people, or 70,000 people maybe. But if Brent Venables can get that team in the playoffs, which frankly, his only they're in the SEC now, so it's going to be a little tougher. But if Oklahoma can get there, that's a tough place to play.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? He's got to get the team together. They've been disappointing the last 2 years, and I say that as someone who was very high on Oklahoma and that defense last year, and they definitely let me down. So I'm hoping to see more from them this season. Now that they're in the SEC, maybe they get a bit. Obviously, it's going to be a much tougher schedule, but maybe they get a bit of a break because of that. We know how much the playoffs love these SEC teams, so hopefully
that's true.
That gives them a little push in there.
We took a look, and we'll as we get closer to the season, we took a look at schedules, and if you recall, first year in the SEC, Texas got the really sweetheart schedule. Oklahoma got brutalized. I mean, they just, I don't know what the heck happened there. They basically drew every tough team in the conference their first season out there, and Texas got there's no cupcakes in the league, but Texas seemingly got off easy from that standpoint.
Yeah, definitely. But I think we can all agree, nobody got it as bad as Vanderbilt got it this year.
No, I think the second week they played the Green Bay Packers. It's going to be tough for Vanderbilt. But anyway, you do what you can do, right? It's going to be fun to see how it plays out. We're all looking forward to it. So there you go. All right, my friend. Let's talk about what you got for our fans tonight and for and how they should, with all the soccer, what you guys got to do is bookmark that website, not that website, but a couple of websites that you've got that are listed down below in our show box.
Yeah, make sure you check out my premium picks at bigal.com, pickadvisor.com, and theinsidersroom.com. The links are in the description below. I've been killing it with the sides in Euro Cup lately. I'm on a 4-0-1 run with the sides right now, and I got my game of the year up for this 3 p.m. match, my group stage game of the year, Spain and Italy. So make sure you go check that out. I also have some baseball for later tonight, but yeah, and I also have a play on the Copa America match to kick things off there. So make sure you check all that out.
Oh, there you go. All right. Well, we will be back tomorrow, and there'll be quite a few things to talk about. Not just soccer, but we'll have some interesting baseball over the weekend, and we'll keep up with what's going on as we continue to move through two major soccer tournaments running concurrently now, and that gives us plenty to talk about, no question about it. Okay, everybody, until tomorrow, take care. For Amadeus, I'm Jim. Don't forget to check in the show box below. Okay, see you later. Bye.